Well, tonight I'm going to talk about a topic that we all know a little bit about. Everybody probably has a camera, right? Some of you have those $2,000 DSLR cameras. Some people have got little pocket cameras. Probably everybody has got like a little cell phone camera. But unfortunately, a lot of times when you see pictures that people are taking, they turn out to be something like that. And it's really a shame when what you see is something more like this. And so tonight I thought I'd just go through some of the basics on how you can use your camera, and it could be a cell phone camera, it could be a fancy camera, it could be a little pocket camera like I like to carry around with me. Things that you can use to make better pictures. So let's start off with the basics. Number one is you need to get the best quality. Your camera, your cell phone, all the fancy cameras have settings on there. And when you set it up, you want to try to adjust for the highest quality setting. You might say, well, Tom, you know, I don't need to take 16 megapixel camera pictures. I can take that 0.3 and it looks fine in the camera. Yeah, but when you blow it up, especially if you want to make a picture, it looks lousy. So SD cards are cheap. Memory is cheap. You know, take the highest quality picture that you can take. Now you're probably going to say, well, how do I find that setting? Where do I find all of these things? Because every camera is different. You know, they all have these different settings. Well, you're going to have to get the book out. I mean, if you're young enough, you may play around with it and you may stumble across the right settings. But for somebody like me, I like to get the book out and go through it and find different things. Unfortunately, these books these days are not books anymore. They're on CDs or they're online, and so you're going to have to go online to actually find it and find all of these different settings. The second thing you need to do is get closer. And again, Jeff, I'm going to use you as a good example tonight because Jeff was taking pictures and he had a little pocket camera. The problem with most cameras is you can actually shoot from a pretty far distance and I can zoom in, but the light down here is not that good. It might be good to your eye, but it's not good to the camera. So generally you want to get as close as you can without, you know, you don't want to invade Bill's space here. You don't want to get like this and say, hold it, Bill. But I mean, you want to give him a little distance. But I mean, the closer the better. You're going to get a better quality shot if you're relatively close. And again, with butterflies, I try to get as close as possible. A lot of times, butterflies might be flying around. It might not be possible, but every once in a while they're sunning themselves and you can get fairly close and you can get a really nice picture. One of the things also is to remember to get the junk out of the background. Now you may have noticed here that I got the lectern out of the way. I got the flag, I got the Ich bin dich sign out of the way. I got all that out because I wanted to try to get a good video. I didn't want all of that distracting stuff going on in the background. Well, the same applies to pictures. When you're taking a picture, you know, make sure that you don't have a telephone pole coming out of their head. And that happens more often than you think. You know, you're looking at the person and you're really not looking at the background. So make sure you look at the background and you get rid of all of those distracting sort of things. If possible, use your flash. I probably use flash about 90% of the time. Again, Jeff used flash down here. Again, the lighting's not that good down here. And you could probably get a better picture. Even when you have a strong, say it's like 12 o'clock noon, you think, oh, I got plenty of sunlight, but that sunlight is also casting some dark shadows. So a lot of times you can use a flash to do some fill-in. And so you can actually get a better picture. Again, you're going to have to go to your settings. You're going to have to find the little setting where you're actually going to be using that flash all the time. So again, most of these pocket cameras have that, and the cell phone cameras have that too. Again, focus on your subject that's sort of natural, but it's probably very easy when you have a bunch of people like this. You know, who do you focus on? Well, again, if you're focusing on one particular thing, you know, as you push down the little button about halfway down and you hear that little beep, well, make sure you're focusing on the butterfly and the flower and not something off in the distance. Because a lot of times you'll take a picture and on the little screen it might look okay, but when you take it home, it'll be out of focus. So take your time and make sure you focus on the subject. In fact, what I try to do is I try to focus on that person's face or their eyes and try to get that in focus, and then I know everything else will be fine. And try for candid shots. You know how most grandparents, Bill, you say, oh, look, come over here, I want to take your picture. You know, and the kids go, you know, they give you that fake smile. It's terrible. So as much as possible, I try to take candid shots. And so this is a picture of me with my son when we were a long time ago. And so if you could get those kids when they're running around or doing things, when you're really not paying any attention to you, you're really going to get a much better picture, a much more fun picture, much more realistic picture than if you say, okay, everybody get together, put your arms around, give me a smile. So candid pictures are much better. And take lots of pictures. Again, with the cameras we have today and the SD cards, you can take 100 pictures. In fact, a lot of professional people might take 50 or 100 shots just to get the one that's really nice. So don't be afraid to take picture after picture after picture. Go ahead and do it. A lot of times we were trying to get a picture of Gina a while back, and Gina always had her eyes closed, and sometimes it's really hard to get a good picture. So again, Jeff is a good example. He took 2 or 3 pictures tonight. When you say, well, why are you doing that? Well, a lot of times people have their eyes closed, or they're not smiling, or it's not quite the right expression. So it's okay to take as many pictures as you think is necessary. And then when you get that all done, take it home and put it in some sort of photo editing program. And these are all programs that are free. You don't have to pay anything for them. I like to use Photoshop, but then Photoshop is sort of the standard, but you don't have to pay money for Photoshop. You can use a basic editing program. And probably the main thing you want to do with a picture, assuming that you've basically got the subject, is you want to crop it. You want to get all the extraneous stuff out of there. In this particular case, I'm trying to get a picture of this butterfly and the flower, and all of this other extraneous material is going on. So as much as you can, crop out all of the extraneous stuff. And then do a file save as. Anybody know? Tell me, you know what that is? Bill, do you know what that is? Tell the group what that is.
That means you give it a new name, so you leave the existing file where it is.
Exactly. So a lot of times if you instead of doing a file save, you're overwriting that original picture. So if you ever say, oh, you know what, I really wanted that big, large picture, and all of a sudden all I got is this little crop picture, try to do a file save as. Again, in Windows, you just go file save as, give it a new name, and you've got a second copy of that picture, and it's just exactly like how you want it. And again, always have your camera with me. Again, most people, if they have their phone, they have a camera that's probably pretty good. I actually like to just take my camera and put it in my pocket. That's why I like these little pocket cameras. And so I always carry it with me. So it's always good, again, if you're with the grandkids or you're outside or you're at Toastmasters, it's always nice to have with you. And then finally, take a class. There are a lot of good classes out there, inexpensive classes. Besides Merrimack, they actually have continuing education classes for $30, $40, $50. You could take a photography class, and you can really learn a lot. So anybody that's interested in this, that wants to get some more information, think about taking that. And even better than that, if you want to stay on your couch and you don't even want to leave the house, you can subscribe to lynda.com. $25 a month. Sounds like a lot of money, but when you figure out that it has classes on just about everything, not only photography, but business, and you name it, and it has a class on it. And they're video classes. And so I can't say enough for lynda.com if you really want to learn about professional photography and what the professionals are doing. So to summarize, if you want to get away from a picture like this, and you go to a picture like this, and please, go through the camera basics, try to remember some of these basics, and hopefully this will improve your picture taking in the future. Mr. Toastmaster.